Hello, welcome to ZSR. We have another Link to the Past Randomizer event to bring you, but this time it's going to be the Challenge Cup, not Cross Keys. We have our Game 3 of our last quarterfinal, Maya-Neko versus Phant. It's Game 3, so whoever wins will claim the last spot in the semifinals. We have Quarterfinals and the NDM on commentary. Say hello, you two.
Game 3, so everybody
Hold on,
go ahead.
guys. I forgot to unmute you guys. Alright, they can hear you now.
Right, once more feeling after a very minor technical difficulty there. Welcome everybody to this Zelda Speedruns presentation of the Link to the Past Randomizer Challenge Cup. This is a quarterfinal matchup as mentioned by our restreamer VXR. I am MyNDM and I am joined in the booth today by Quarterfinals.
Hello. I'm doing fantastic today. How about you, MyNDM?
I am doing well. This is, as VXR mentioned, going to decide who our last semifinalist is going to be. Will it be Maya-Neko, the German community's, I believe, final hope in this tournament? And on the other side we have Phant, and we've already seen a couple of Phant partisans here in chat, so hopefully we're going to have a good one here.
I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Match 1 decided by less than 2 minutes. Match 2, very exciting. Maya decided to be a little bit risky and gamble. Phant relied on execution, which brought us up to this match. So, as you said, this is it. Last chance to try and get into that last semifinal spot. So they've both got to be on their A game today. So I'm expecting fantastic play from both of these runners.
Yep, the second chances are very decidedly counting down. This is winner take all, and I hope everybody's looking forward to it as we're going to get underway here in probably about 30 seconds.
Yep, so the first question of the run in standard mode is always, what item are you hoping the uncle gives our runners today?
Ooh, early uncle weapons are fun. Once you get this late into the tournament, you have to think that all of the runners who are left are really conversant with any of them, so something that rewards a little bit of execution, maybe like a bow or, the hammer maybe?
Nice choice. I'm hoping for anything other than a sword. I would like bombs maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, bombs is a good one. We did see Phant practicing that in the pregame, so, it'll be interesting to see what our runners do get here in the next 5 seconds or so.
Yeah, they did get that blue mail upgrade out of the first chest, so that's certainly a nice find.
Little extra safety early on, and we do have the bow start. The bow does plenty of damage. It's not a question of getting the enemies down, it's just a question of, sometimes that little gap between releasing the arrow and the arrow arriving on target means the target's not there anymore.
Yeah, got to be a little careful with your shots, but otherwise a fantastic early weapon. Takes out most of the guards in one shot, blue guards in two. Maybe give some divergence if one of our runners decides to do an early Eastern play.
Certainly possible, and we see Maya getting a drop there. We have the sticks pool on the guard, so spin some sticks, get some more.
Yeah, convenient for their weapon choice, not convenient for their bomb, desire. They're going to have to look elsewhere other than the prize pack to try and find that.
Well, we do still have some rats once they get down into the end, and well, there's that sword you were hoping wasn't going to show up. It's not quite a sword start, but it's certainly a sword continuation.
I mean, any time to find a sword is a good time, I suppose.
Can't imagine that either of our runners are really going to complain about it. You always feel just a little safer when you have that B button to knock things out from in front of you.
Makes dashing a whole lot easier. Makes it so you don't have to worry about running out of anything. All around, good to have.
And And we've already gotten our small key here, so Dark Cross can have something, our Zelda Cell item can still be something. I don't believe we've seen the map either, so that's still outstanding, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, it could just be hiding in the poor box.
Well, that's what our runners certainly hope for. Just saved a little bit of time not having to walk around the sticky priest and grab that chest. A shield as well. We're just getting the full early game loadout here. A sword, a mail upgrade, shield, and a bow.
I mean, with the mail upgrade, it's not even the NMG care package, it's NMG Plus. You've already got that safety that you're probably not even picking up if you're just playing the vanilla game. That's buried all the way in Ice Palace.
Yeah, I can't imagine our runners are going to have almost any trouble with the first probably 30 minutes of this game. Not until Dark World is anything going to pose much of a challenge with that blue mail and a sword already.
Likely to see a lot of things go by reasonably quickly. Even those crabs, notorious for doing 2 hearts of damage to Light World enemy, are only going to do 1 on that blue mail.
Yeah, we'll see also if it sways our runners from avoiding, taking the choice to not grab a couple heart pieces if they're, a couple of seconds away from being grabbed or so on. They might decide, you know what, I've got blue mail, I've got a sword, I don't need those extra heart piece on the race game, for instance.
That is entirely possible. Blue mail does count as a great deal of safety, especially in the early game. Now, when you start running into traps later that do 1 heart of damage no matter what, then you kind of want those hearts to have been filled up for you. But, early days yet.
For sure. Making our way into the back of Escape here. Still haven't seen any bombs from any of the chests. Likely see our runners start to farm a couple rats back here to see if maybe they have what they're looking for.
That's going to be the last out if it is not bombs here in the Dark Cross chest, and Phant's going to show us. Just a shovel.
Yep, unfortunately can't use that shovel to break a hole in the wall, so rats may be the last option here.
Maya seems to be very conscientious about picking up all of those arrow drops. Is very much ahead on the stick count now compared to Phant.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just an abundance of caution or if she plans to use those arrows, maybe an Eastern play or something where they want them. Unfortunately, we see that the rats are on the magic prize pool this time, so no bombs available in Escape at all. So our runners will have to come back here if they want it.
That's a nice prize pack. There are some other handy enemies in that prize pack, but, not going to do the things that our runners were really hoping was going to happen there, and that's break in for those back 3 in the back of the escape sequence.
Yeah, insult to injury there. The burrito is the item in the poor box there. So 3 items left in Escape.
Just one more thing to weigh on the runners' minds in the early game. That was a vanilla green pendant at Eastern Palace on Maya's check. I think that was a regular crystal at Hera. Did you happen to catch, or maybe looks like one of our trackers managed to catch Desert as a regular pendant?
Yeah, 2 pendants in the Light World. Looks like we're going to have a Dark World heavy crystal count this time.
And kind of interesting with that bow start and then the vanilla green pendant. You have to wonder if either of our runners is thinking, well, maybe I just want to go over there and have a look early on.
Yeah, game 2 also had a vanilla, or not a vanilla, but it had a pendant Eastern Palace. One of the runners, Maya, decided to chance that. Phant stayed away from it as long as they could, so we'll see if their plans stay the same as far as whether they're willing to dip into pendant dungeons or not.
And it appears that both of our runners have seen that heart container on the lumberjacks, unlikely to be hitting 20 hearts this seed.
Nope, but of all the things you could find in that place, a heart container's not the worst thing to find. It means, Aga's less likely to be required.
At least not required for whatever's on that lumberjack ledge.
Ooh, nice find there, though.
Yeah, pulling that hook shot out of the forest drop, that's a little nice added early mobility. You can kind of stun a few guards, find out what the stun prize is. Appears to be single hearts, which is nice.
Oh, Maya getting a excellent tree pull there. The 4 bomb packs fully loading up on bombs right there. Phant has not got that. Only getting a tier 1 tree pull on his side for some hearts when he did it. So hopefully there's some bombs in these chests for him.
Yeah, I think Maya actually went so far as to set up a tier 3 there, I believe is what that is.
Oh, I did not see that. Phant pulls the mirror out of Blind's hideout, but no bombs, so he will have to come back to bomb that wall. Maya not going to have to. Early mirror is interesting. Not going to be super useful for a little bit, but will be incredibly useful later on when our runners start dipping into some of the other dungeons and the Dark World routing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you really like to see before you have Dark World access, because you already know, okay, I can just route all of these Light World and Dark World checks together. My life just got a lot easier.
For sure. Phant does manage to find bombs in the well and uses them to great effect. Finds the ice rod in the chest.
No ice rod hunt today, and with only 1 pendant left to discover, really likely at this point that Turtle Rock is going to be one of our crystals, and that ice rod is a 100% required find.
Absolutely. Our runners are certainly going to be happy to have seen that. Pretty much nobody likes a ice rod hunt.
Yeah, missing that last piece of progression for Go mode, no matter what it is, always feels kind of bad, but when it's the ice rod and it can be just about anywhere except behind Trinex, it's not the kind of seed that you really enjoy.
No, between that and medallions, I don't know which is worse.
Maya's going to go ahead and drop into the well a second time. She wants the last 10 rupees to actually check the bottle vendor.
Ooh, interesting play there. Good game knowledge, knowing that you can drop back in and grab 10 rupees every time you do. Just comes out as a poor multi-level marketing scheme there, as they only get a half return on their investment.
Not only that, but it was 20 bucks in the chicken shack, so Phant not going to have to loop back around. Although Phant also out of bombs and is going to spend 50 of those 111 on a bomb pack instead.
Interesting choice, choosing to go with the buying the bombs over the bottle vendor, but probably the smart choice, as the bombs will give you access to more areas, and our runners are almost certainly going to be back in the Kakariko Village area in the future, and he can just buy it then. Does find the powder in the back of the tavern. Very nice early safety.
It's one of those safeties that doesn't work quite so well in the light world. You don't tend to run into a whole lot of anti-fairies here in places that are otherwise dangerous enough to need to refill the hit points, but it does yeoman's work in the late game.
It does. Did my eyes deceive me, or was that a glove on the library?
I believe that was in fact a glove on the library.
Interesting find there. Means our boots are more likely to come up early this seed. Could be mitts, Titan's mitts, if the boots hang out for a while and we find our other gloves somewhere else. But definitely going to need the boots this seed.
And we had Phant blind running that race game and picking up the bottle. Maya walked over, saw what it was, and then went back for it. So we're going to get a small child check on both sides here. Maybe.
I would expect Maya to go up there immediately. Phant putting it off until later. Makes sense. They have the bottle vendor that they also will need to check later, so they know they're going to be in Kakariko again before too long. Also, Phant remembering that they pulled the shovel out of the Dark Cross, only ends up digging 20 rupees though.
I wonder if we may see Maya turn this in and then save and quit and think about looping the shovel in with some Dark World South checks.
Oh, that would be a nice thing. Since they have the mirror already, they know they're going to be walking past there and able to mirror in when they do their South Dark World Stumpy checks and so that would be good routing. Looks actually like they're going to do it now though.
Yeah, that works as well, particularly when you're still looking for pretty much all pieces of the Dark World access puzzle. I can understand not putting it off.
Yeah, you definitely don't want something to be there that's super important, like the boots or the hammer. Sometimes best to just check it now when you're running low on other possible Light World checks.
Well, there is our logical first glove as the flooded sunken treasure there at the dam.
And it looks like those library gloves are, in fact, going to be the mitts, and puts off when we might find the boots quite a bit. It could be rather late when we get the boots now.
Phant was trying to pre-cook that first bomb a little bit, dropped it into the screen transition and lost it.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate. Nice attempt, but ended up losing a bomb for it. Fortunately, they have plenty.
When you have both the sword and the hook shot, it's not as though the mini mold arms pose a great deal of difficulty. It's when you're going over there and you're trying to do bomb mini mold arm cave and you accidentally lose yourself a bomb that way that you think, maybe this was not the wisest choice.
Absolutely. Phant there pulling the aforementioned boots much earlier than I expected. Finds them in Mini Moldarm Cave. Also worth noting, did not forget to talk to the NPC this time.
Yep, those early boots mean fairly early mitts, and we're just a moon pearl away from Dark World access, or at least the knowledge thereof. Our runners still have to go back and grab that second glove.
Yeah, it could be setting up for an interesting Dark World, or early Dark World, I should say. Having the mitts and the Moon Pearl as your Dark World access is always kind of strange. Only one portal to get into the Dark World, so you want to be able to do as much as possible. That mirror may come in quite handy with their Dark World routing if it turns out to be the Titan's Myths that gives them that access.
And here's Phant going to take that first glove and drop into the back of Escape. It looks like Maya has decided to forego Ice Rod Cave and is not heading for back of Escape, but, well, maybe doing the Bonk Rocks check first.
Yeah, it looks that way. I missed at least one of the chests in the back of Escape, but I don't think anything important came out of there.
I'm sure our trackers will double check us if that was anything but garbage, but we do see one of our trackers, Tomaltalk, saying, all garbage.
It looks like Maya is going to go down and grab her Titan's Mitts right away. Makes sense. You know that is a required piece of logical progression. Might as well grab it now when you might be able to use it in your routing later.
Yeah, it's entirely possible, depending on what else is still to pop out here, that you could use those to great effect here in the near future.
Phant, meanwhile, doing some cleanup here in the Kakariko village, finding his bad return on investment from the bottle vendor and the explosives from the kid.
Small child playing with explosives in bed. What is this country coming to?
Hyrule's in a bad way. Maya, however, in a good way after finding half magic in King's Tomb. Nice find.
Half magic is a nice, if sometimes underrated safety, particularly once you've found something like the cape. It can be really nice for getting through areas that are otherwise maybe a little questionable sometimes.
Absolutely. Makes the Ganon fight easier too. The Ganon's tower climb easier, not having to worry so much about having a blue potion or green potion refill. Just a nice all-around peace of mind, I would say.
Oh, Maya has made those back of escape checks, has saved and quit to the sanctuary once more, while Phant is heading over to visit our favorite elder, Sahasrahla.
And it looks like Maya may be making the Death Mountain play early.
And Phant pulling silvers out of Sahasrahla's closet along with a couple of additional Garbo items.
Wow, talk about a power item to have early on. Silvers before you even have to fight one boss. Those will come in handy for a lot of the game here.
Does an entirely unreasonable chunk of damage to a whole lot of bosses. We may see a play all the way to the Armos Knights here. That green pendant still outstanding, amongst other things.
Yeah, very possible. Not logically, at least not yet, in logic for the Armos Knights. No fire source as of yet, but Maya also foregoing logic to go up the mountain. Saves the old man, gets just some bombs for her efforts. I guess that old man was mining today.
It is interesting in that Phant seems to be hewing a little closer to logic here, and may well find the item that is going to logically allow him to go up the mountain, while Maya is making the play, assuming, well, I'm just bypassing that.
Yeah, quite possible. That hookshot giving them, and the mirror, giving them access to pretty much the entirety of Light World Death Mountain. A lot of checks available to them. We also get a map check to see our 5-6 crystals are at Turtle Rock and Pod.
And our last pendant at Swamp Palace. Interesting that we already have both the mirror and the hookshot, but Swamp Palace a pendant today.
Yeah, getting some vibes from this pendant layout. A lot of the pendants are available early, or will be available early, it seems.
It is going to be interesting to see what Phant pulls out of here. This is the last in logic check, and there's the Moon Pearl.
Ooh, big find there for Phant as he finds his Dark World access. With those Titan's Mitts in hand, they will be able to check Dark Death Mountain when they make their play up here.
That was an exceptionally clean Haripot on Maya-Neko's side.
Was very fast, first try. Well done. Ooh, finds their own find. Yeah, that's another important piece of the puzzle here on Maya's side, finding the hammer.
That is an interesting thing to find out of logic. It's not necessarily going to tell you what you need to put yourself back into logic, but it does make some of that Dark World traversal substantially easier. There are some Dark World portals down there off of the mountain that you have to have that to use.
Ooh, Maya taking an unfortunate fall there from our favorite Troll Dorm. Just getting a little too close there. And yeah, it will be interesting to see now that Maya has the hammer. It'll make the Light Death Mountain checks a whole lot easier. Phant, meanwhile, having full Dark World access himself, just not as easily or as accessible, I would say, may choose to go straight to the Dark World and forego the mountain temporarily.
Phant and this Igor seem to be having a bit of a fight. And that may not have been the key Igor. That one may still be outstanding here.
I thought the same thing. It looks like they did get the key eventually. Must have just landed a little bit away from the spot that looked like it got killed. Unfortunately, the other Igor in that room, I believe, finding Phant in the dark and ending up with a death. Looks like he is going to forego going for a second attempt.
That can be a really rough room in the dark, especially once you've started allowing those Igors to move around and they get a little away from you. Going to go ahead and opt out of the out-of-logic green pendant, which I feel like makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, probably not worth dipping the additional time it would take to get back there at this point for two items with the green pendant. I believe we're still missing one item from Eastern. Chat can probably correct me if I'm wrong. Maya, meanwhile, does complete the Moldorm fight, pulls their first crystal at just under 22 minutes, and is making their way over to the rest of Death Mountain.
Now, it'll be interesting with this on Phant. You know, he knows that this is out of logic. He knows that he pulled his Moon Pearl in logic. So, you know, the lamp to make this work, or the flute to make this work, very likely tucked away over in that Village of Outcasts Skullwoods kind of area.
Yeah, very possible. May even be so far as to be down in Hype Cave or somewhere else in South Dark World. A lot of areas now open that could have that logical progression to the mountain.
It is going to be interesting to see once one of our runners gets back down there just what the actual intended chain was. Was it the flute? Was it the lamp?
Maya, meanwhile, in Paradox Cave, nothing so far from the 5 chests they've opened. Holding out hope for something being up here. Looks like both of the boomerangs is all that they find.
Yeah, your choice of boomerang available to you in Paradox Cave. Now, one thing that will be a little interesting on this is that Phant, with that Moon Pearl in hand, is going to be able to do the Dark Mountain while he's up here.
Yeah, fortunately for Maya, she is going to get funneled back towards Eastern before too long to find that Moon Pearl. It looks like because she has the mirror, we're actually going to get a check of this Dark World stuff anyway, using a little trick with the mirror.
Yeah, we're going to get a little Super Bunny play here, it appears. Phant going to go for a different one of these plays to the hair pot. This is the spin speed setup.
And very nicely pulled off, too. Just a couple of pause buffers to make sure he got that spot right where he wanted it, and then on up the tower he is.
Going to add that hammer to his collection, and Maya pulling some out-of-logic flippers. Now, we know that those are in-logic flippers, barring, you know, some checks down on the lower world to find out how we were supposed to get up here in the first place, and the Moon Pearl that we know on Phant's side.
Yeah, close to in logic, I would say, at least for Phant. There's, the aforementioned lack of mirror or lamp or flute to get up here, but those flippers will come in handy. Interestingly, I believe, at least for Phant, that will bring Swamp Palace in logic.
That is the last part of that Swamp Palace care package. Another one of those pendant dungeons, ready and available.
Pendant Dungeon's looking a little sus at this point. Maya, meanwhile, going to take those out-of-logic flippers and immediately go and do some water checks. The 300 that she pulled out of Super Bunny as well, was it 100 rupee, going to come in handy, giving her Zora money.
This is an interesting play, choosing to continue chasing the out-of-logic item. I do kind of wonder at this point if she just thinks, okay, I skipped the lamp down here, that's the only thing that I'm missing, these flippers are going to lead to my Moon Pearl and put me in the Dark World.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but since those flippers were in Super Bunny, they cannot be locking the Moon Pearl.
No, you're right.
Okay, just making sure the logic hadn't changed on me. It does change from time to time, and it was entirely possible that they decided to add in that being an acceptable way to get into Super Bunny, but Maya should know that the Moon Pearl is available somewhere, but no time like the present to check the water checks with those flippers now that you have them.
Yep, bunny walking absolutely a thing in some of the more advanced modes like cross keys, but as far as actually picking things up out of a Super Bunny state, no.
Yeah, question from chat. Zora can in fact have the lamp, the glove giving us logical access up to get to Zora, so that is one possible location for our mountain access logic.
So let's have a look at some more of these as yet illogical checks on Maya's side.
First up, being Waterfall Fairy, finding 20 rupees, gonna get a free refill on the bottle, which turns out to be free green goo, and 50 rupees.
Yeah, green goo is a pretty decent refill, especially when it's kind of adjacent to Ice Palace there. You just have to dip through that whirlpool if you need to have a quick fill up on magic before you head in there. Of course, without a Fire Rod or Bomb Boost medallion, we're not ready for that quite yet.
Absolutely not. Zora Ledge coming up empty, so far the flipper's not leading to anything important.
Just increasing that suspicion that I think we both have, that Swamp Palace may contain something that our runners are going to be looking for before all is said and done.
It's definitely suspiciously one of the few places that those flippers really unlock at this point.
Now, Phant is going to get the information that Maya already has, that Ether is the required medallion for Turtle Rock. Of course, we don't have any medallions yet, so it doesn't really change his calculus at all.
Nope, not yet. Is going to give us a new check that we haven't seen from Maya, that being Hookshot Cave here. Well, you mentioned medallions.
Well, if we had a vanilla medallion requirement, it would be key under the doormat, but as it stands, we don't know if that has any meaning at all yet.
No, and it could be a little bit before we find that out. The flute going to be required before we find out what the medallion requirement is for Meyer.
Maya is also going to give us a magic bat check here. Trying to hold all of these bits and pieces of logic in mind, there's a second sword, which I think is logical once we found our way up the mountain to begin with.
Ooh, this logic is getting harder and harder to follow, but I believe you're correct. A good find, that powder that we got fairly early in the back of the tavern actually being somewhat important today.
And this is going to be that play that we both know that Maya needs to make, is going to go into Sahasra's closet, and after that should be on the way to Eastern Palace, because the number of remaining checks is dwindling rapidly.
Indeed. I would also expect a full clear of Eastern from Maya's side. Much like Phant attempted, I would expect Maya to attempt the same thing. Phant, meanwhile, checking out Hype Cave, finding a very low Hype Cave today. Just a couple of heart container and pieces.
It's kind of a mild safety cave, if anything. You wouldn't really expect that of old Johnny Two Bomb's speakeasy in Tripe Cave, but, you know, sometimes it works out.
He seems to collect a wide variety of things, so... Phant, meanwhile, checking Stumpy and Cave 45, both turning up to be nothing important.
With those mitts in hand, does get to just kind of chain all of this right up through the village.
Yeah, as we were mentioning earlier, the mirror making Dark World very nice to route, the mitts even more so. So overall, this is going to be a very nice way to route the Dark World. Just one loop, you can go through and grab pretty much everything the Dark World has to offer at this point.
The only real downside I found to routing it this way is, what do you want to do about Purple Chest?
Yeah, there's never really a great time to route in Purple Chest, but even more so when you can kind of bypass it and get the things in the North Dark World. You can get the things in the South Dark World, but you don't really want to take the Purple Chest either way. And no flute makes it kind of hard to just say, I'll go do this real quick and come back.
No flute, and also no book. You know, if you have the book, at least you can think, well, I can go down there in the Dark World with the Purple Chest, and then I can go do Bombo's Tablet as well.
Yeah, no walking over to route in Desert as well on a Purple Chest route, but Phant's side, at least, they could, if they wanted to, route in Swamp Palace, although it is a pendant.
Still not really turning up a whole lot more, and it looks like Maya is going to head for the back in Eastern Palace.
Well, we'll see if she has some better luck in this room than Phant did.
Appears to be using those sword beams from that out-of-logic Master Sword to great effect there, finding the Igor in the dark and then firing away.
Yeah, overall, very cleanly done in the dark room there. Phant also dropping down, going to do the magic bat and find their Master Sword. Probably going to be very happy to see that.
A little bit of curiosity as to what that is actually behind in the logic, be it the lamp or the flute. But blink and you miss it. Here comes a green pendant Armos fight.
Yeah, with silvers, this is going to be over very quickly. And hope you enjoyed the fight because it's over. Maya grabs her green pendant, which she'll have to go turn in to see if this whole Armos battle was worth it.
And is going to drop back in. The last item is considering dropping back in. The last item, I believe, is in the Vanilla Big Key location, but says, nope, you know what? I'm going to go turn this green pendant in instead.
Yeah, interesting choice there. Phant did go and pull that, I believe, and it was nothing important. So we know that on my side, they're not missing anything important. That red mail, though, while not progression, is certainly a nice find.
With the mirror already in hand, you don't have to worry about how that harms your ability to perform an intentional death warp. So, yeah, it's just additional safety that Maya now has in hand.
Yeah, I would expect that Phant does not end up getting that unless the seed becomes really dry at some point and he is forced to choose to complete that, hoping to find progression. But at this point, I would expect he does not find red mail before the end of the game. Runners of this caliber, of course, not going to need it. Phant not going to need red mail in order to complete his goal here.
But it's one of those things that when you stumble upon, you're generally not going to turn it down. Speaking of that book and things that you could pair up with a purple chest check, Phant has found the book and the bug-catching net in the front of Thieves Town.
Yeah, swag net and reading material so far. Very nice. As of yet, undetermined how useful that book will be, but it will give them access to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Phant now has logical access to all 3 pendant dungeons at 35 minutes in.
It does appear that way. And
sus.
we have Ike here, our other tracker, noting that Ether has also appeared in front of Thieves Town, so we are missing a Cane of Samaria to get in and maybe do a little damage in Turtle Rock.
Ooh, interesting. A lot of important items coming up early. We're only missing a few now for possible go mode. We're talking Fire Rod, Cane of Samaria, and the Flute. Lamp would be logically required, but neither of our runners is going to necessarily need it.
And we could also still be plus or minus that Bombos medallion for entry to Mire.
Ah, very true, very true. So 3 or 4 items from go mode still. Phant also not having found the small key yet may be able to skip the big chest in Thieves, which, even though it doesn't take much time when you do have the hammer, is a nice little time save.
It always feels just a little bit better when that small key locks itself away and you don't have to worry about going over there at all.
Yeah, bonus means you don't have to pick up the big rock again when you go through this room.
Now, the attic could not have had the small key, but this could. Let's see.
No, appears that key did in fact lock itself away.
Doesn't it always feel that way when you have a relatively early hammer? You just walk on into Thieves Town and, well, I didn't actually need it this time, but as soon as you don't have the hammer in hand and you decide, you know what, I'm going to clear Thieves Town without it, then it bites you.
Every time. Phant on the very scripted blind fight here. Should have no trouble. Ooh. Well, Phant does let blind fall off script a little bit, but has relatively no trouble completing the dungeon and gets their second crystal, correction, at 38 minutes in.
And 2 crystals at 38 minutes is not bad. Does have some other options here, maybe, but none of them are particularly good. The closest thing is probably the out-of-logic play into pod, and that really only out of logic with the lack of the lamp.
Yeah, a couple of options, but all of them bad. Could do Swamp Palace, could do pod, could do some North Dark World checks, routing in Skull Woods and maybe Graveyard Ledge. We'll see which one they choose.
Given the things that the Seed has not wanted to give out so far, and with that Moon Pearl for Dark World access in one pendant dungeon already, I would really be eyeing askance the opportunities to go into both of the other ones. It just seems like the logic has made those so available that it would surprise me if nothing was there.
I would also be very surprised, especially with Swamp, having... since Swamp requires so many items, if you get all of those items early, it always... I don't know, it would seem to be a far-fetched thing that Swamp has nothing of importance.
The front of Skullwood seems to be coming up small keys here for Phant.
So far, looks like it might unfortunately be that both of the items are in the back. A couple more checks here possible. Oh my, I stand corrected. The fire rod coming up in the front of Skull Woods. That is a amazing find for Phant, finding the fire rod exactly when he needs it.
All of a sudden, a very obvious next play into a crystal dungeon. You just stay here and do the boss.
Absolutely. One more item to find in Skull Woods, but the real treasure being the crystal that Moth is going to have. I would also expect Phant, now that they have the mirror and the book, to possibly make a pet check when they're done with the Moth.
This would be the time to do it, and again, another one of those situations where you start thinking, I got access to these pendant dungeons so early, is something I need sitting there?
Yeah, I would certainly want the knowledge now, no matter whether Pet has something or not. I would want to know, given the loadout we have.
Starting to feel like we may get the duck call text there.
Well, that would certainly be interesting. Over on Maya's side, meanwhile, having little trouble going through Thieves Town themselves.
That red mail and the boots makes life pretty easy. You don't have to worry even if you do take a hit, but most things you just get to dash through.
Yeah, almost everything in Thieves Town that really is annoying and causes damage to you does very little when you have red mail.
And speaking of clean tech on Maya's side, that was a very cleanly executed stair lag cancel to get through those spikes on one cycle.
Yeah, something you don't see too often. Meanwhile, on Phant's side, a very clean Moth fight, taking no damage whatsoever.
Finding a hard container, which seems like an appropriate thing for a boss to drop, and adding to that crystal count, up to 3 here at 42 minutes.
Yep, get some hype in chat. Phant is going to give us that ped check.
Just a shield, interesting. So, not a ped seed.
I was having some trouble figuring out what that one was meaning for a minute, because said defense, and I automatically thought about mail upgrades, which we've seen both of, so I was very confused for a second until I realized, yeah, that's a shield, which our runners are not going to care about in the slightest.
Unlikely to be pulled except possibly for the memes, but being that this is Game 3, unlikely to see that play out here.
Absolutely not. Let's see where Phant goes. Looks like we're going to have some North Dark World checks. Bumper ledge and I would expect Graveyard ledge to follow.
Those are his logical next steps, having come in from Hype Cave and looped up through the south and then through the village, while Maya has picked up Crystal number 2 and does appear to be heading north towards Skull Woods.
This is a very good play for her. We know that... Oh, one of the guards getting in the way and causing her to change direction, it seems, going over to check Graveyard. Hopefully she will go back towards the Skullwoods area.
That is a really interesting choice. It's one thing to leave Skull Woods behind when you have the flute and you can get back over here in a timely manner, but until that flute shows up, it's a bit of a slog to go back there.
Yeah, I can understand the reluctance. You don't really want to have to come and do Skull Woods without the Fire Rod, but given their very quickly diminishing options, I would expect Skull Woods to be a high importance check for her.
And it looks like she is going to head back in that direction. I wondered if we were going to see that play continue to catfish, which is what I'm expecting to see on Phant's side, but no, Maya, after checking Graveyard Ledge, is heading back towards the west.
Ooh, a good play. This is going to be the correct play. Going to give her pretty much the same loadout as Phant. Going to be able to finish that dungeon. And a good thing she's going back, because this is something that could have been left off for quite a long time. With the Fire Rod being in the dungeon.
That is one of those tricks Rando can play on you, putting the item in its vanilla dungeon. And there it is, she turns it up immediately.
Yep, Rando gonna Rando. We'll see if she makes her way immediately to the back of Skullwoods now that it is full clearable.
We may see a check of the middle here against the hope of a small key turning up, but, probably more likely to just steal one off. Nope, the mirror's coming out, so probably is going to check this one middle chest first. And Phant is going to go ahead and clear up these flipper checks that we've seen from Maya. So, since we're about 45 minutes into this thing and our runners are going to show us things that the other runner already has, this is probably a good time to tell you if you've been enjoying this Game 3 show that Phant and Maya-Neko have been putting on for you. Go ahead and give them a follow. It does help them out. Go and show them a little love on their own channel. Obviously, to get this far, you know that they play a decent amount of Rando even when they are not on the restream. So, go ahead and have a look, say hi, throw a good luck in their chat. Always appreciated. We'll go ahead and shout everybody else too while we're here. I am MindDM on the comm here with Coravane. Our trackers are Tomaltalk13 and Ike here. And VXR441 pushing all those buttons behind the scene, doing the technical work that needs to be done for this restream to happen. Much appreciation to all of you.
Looks like Phant is going into the Dark World down south. Looks like either a pod or swamp play here.
Looking like pod from this direction, and maybe not even pyramid first. Seems to be making that right-hand turn and heading directly for the Palace of Darkness.
Interesting commit here. It is another crystal dungeon, so gonna have to full clear it at some point anyway. It is from Phant's point of view, in logic. We're still missing that lamp or flute to get the logic to the hammer, but Otherwise, there's no reason why Phant can't full clear this dungeon now.
Does have the fire rod in hand, which makes, the couple of maybe more difficult dark rooms a lot more manageable, particularly dark turtles. You can just light one of those braziers and have your way with them with the hammer.
Meanwhile, on Maya's side, putting that fire rod to use to take out that moth, being a little more difficult than it was for Phant. Gonna have to be careful here, down to 2 hearts. Those spikes doing 1 heart of damage no matter what mail upgrade you're on.
And Maya has unfortunately encountered enough spikes that fight has ended.
Ooh, tough break there. Red mail half magic and just getting an unfortunate set of spikes and moth movement there. Gonna go back in and try again. Uses up a potion to refill her magic meter, though.
The interesting part when you're on red mail is that the moth actually does less damage to you than the spikes do.
Yeah, if you have red mail, you want to stick as close to the moth as possible. On any other mail upgrade, you might as well stay away, but when you're on red, stick close.
At the very least, if you have the choice between getting hit by the moth and getting hit by the spikes on red mail, run into the moth.
The second attempt going much smoother, manages to take down the moth, only getting hit a couple times there. Gets their full heart container and 3rd crystal.
Yeah, another one of those crystals well in hand, evening that crystal count back up between our 2 runners, but of course Phant is already in that next crystal dungeon, has been digging around in the front of Palace of Darkness for a little while now. Hasn't really seen much.
No, as typical with Pod, a lot of small keys coming up front, but not much else.
Well, now that he's cleared out the entirety of the front, we'll go ahead and get to the interesting part of the dungeon.
Yep, and meanwhile we'll see where Maya decides to go, whether or not they decide to follow in Phant's footsteps and come over here and clear this crystal dungeon, or make a play on Pendant Swamp.
Yeah, I'm still holding out on that concept that the game has given us access to all of these pendant dungeons so early for a reason. But, by the same token, the goal is 7-7 defeat Ganon, so heading for those crystal dungeons instead makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, always, always seems logical to go and clear out the crystal dungeons first. You know you're going to have to complete them at some time, so as soon as they are full clearable, might as well go and do it since you're not wasting much time in full clearing it. Makes sense.
And of course after this, now that we have that fire rod out of Skull Woods, the Ice Palace play makes a lot of sense as well. Of course we've got plenty of runners in the community now who say, you know what, I'm going to hold out and wait and hope that I have the Cane of Samaria first, but let me tell you from recent personal experience, sometimes the Cane of Samaria is just in the icebreaker chest.
Annoyingly, it seems to happen more often than not. Phant using that Ether Medallion to nice effect in the Dark Maze, freezing all those very annoying fire spitters, so won't have to deal with them, or at least most of them. This last one was off screen when he pulled it, but otherwise finding no trouble going through this Dark Maze to find a couple of items. Still nothing coming up important in Pod, though.
If you're coming into that room from the key door, like you're going to do if you're not performing the hammer jump, if you walk down first before you light off either your Ether or Bombos Medallion, you will catch all 4 of those Kadongos.
Interesting, I did not know that. But one of those useful tips and tricks that if you have the loadout to support it, or a loadout that would be easier doing so, useful to be able to take out all 4 of those at once.
So we're going to get the play towards the boss from Phant now, as Maya is going to find keys for a little while yet.
Yeah, makes sense. As we said before, no reason to leave off the boss's dungeon. You may not have the lamp, which means this is not in logic, but as long as you have the fire rod, the basement of Pod isn't too much of a hassle. And definitely worth grabbing the crystal now rather than coming back later.
You have no reason, once you're at this caliber of runner, once you're at this late stage of this tournament, to go ahead and intentionally double dip something that you know you have the skill to go ahead and clear out now. But that being said, this dark basement can get a little hairy from time to time, so let's see how Phant handles it.
Absolutely. We've already seen Phant have a little bit of trouble due to unfortunate RNG in one of the other dark rooms earlier in Eastern. So, dark rooms can always go terribly wrong if you hang out in them too long.
Not going to take any chances there. He's going to go ahead and light both torches. And with the turtles in the magic pool, going to be rewarded with full magic for the diamond trouble.
Added bonus on top of that. Had half magic, so there wasn't really a risk of running out of magic, so you might as well throw as much fire as you can. Get those torches lit so you don't have to worry about it. The turtles being on the magic prize pool, just added bonus. Phant setting up spin speed there to increase the striking distance of his hammer. Going to make taking out Helmet just a little bit quicker.
Helma trying to not cooperate as Helma does sometimes, but once those 17 hammer strikes go into the mask phase 2 with the silver arrows, it's free and easy. One silver stick into that green jewel is all it takes.
Yeah, as you said very early in the race, Silver's doing a unusually large amount of damage to pretty much anything they hit. It seems that either things die with one hit to the Silvers, or they're just immune to them. The Vitreous fight being the one exception.
And we have Maya pulling that heart container out of the bottom right of the dark, is going to go ahead and bomb over to the big chest, but that was Phant's fourth crystal. That's the first of the 5-6 wombo combo, but the other one is in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, interestingly, we may only be a Canis Maria away from a Turtle Rock play, but for now, it looks like Phant's going to make that logical dip down to Ice Palace, another full clearable dungeon now that he has that fire rod.
And the Ice Palace play will be interesting here because we know, based on where those flippers were up on the mountain, that once again, that portion of all of this is going to be out of logic.
Yeah, we could still find a lamp or a flute there, but certainly not going to find both, as we are still missing at least one of those items to put our runners back in logic with everything they have. The number of places that those could be quickly dwindling. That swamp ever more suspicious.
And of course, they're both holding out hope that it's just the lamp I'm skipping, it's just the lamp I'm skipping, there's no problem here, I can go ahead and sequence break Ice Palace, I'm just missing the lamp, not a problem.
Yeah, our runner's certainly hoping that. The only other alternative is that what they're still leaving behind and avoiding so far has been the flute, which is 100% required for much more than just that mountain logic access.
That is the only way to get into Misery Mire without some glitches that are banned in this tournament. If that's what they're missing, they are going to have a bit of a time tracking it back down.
We'll see where Phant goes after this Ice Palace play. Assuming we find nothing in it, his options are pretty slim. I think the swamp play might be one of the only things they really have left, except for maybe a purple chest turning, which I don't think we've seen yet. Oh, and they could take that book to Desert, I suppose.
Yeah, Desert has that book leading to it. We've got the Bombos tablet still outstanding as well. Or did Maya check that? I may be rando braining on that. Somebody's going to say somebody in chat was paying better attention, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't recall it, but we'll see. Meanwhile, Maya does make their way through the dark rooms of Pod pretty quickly, I will say.
Once again, that fire rod in the Dark Turtles room makes what is a dangerous dark room substantially less dangerous. Also has that red mail to just body her way right on through.
Yeah, one of those things that just all throughout the whole race is just going to come up handy, saving them just 1 or 2 hearts throughout every section of the game they go through. So, blink and you missed it. Helma down on Maya's side, getting her 4th crystal.
Religion's catching me here. The Dark Mountain access is not going to be in Swamp. Now, whichever one of them it's not could still be in there. But with the Flippers and Super Bunny Cave, that's not going to be where the logical first mountain access came from.
Very nice correction there. Yeah, I still very sus on Swamp being something important given the loadout, but it won't be that access to the mountain. Phant, meanwhile, pulling off a very swag stair clip there. Love to see it.
That was the second very nice play on Phant's side. The first was a very classical NMG-style Ice Palace bomb jump.
Yeah, with that hammer dash following it, which was very nice. Maya looks like they are also going to keep following in the footsteps here and go right into Ice Palace as well.
Does not seem to have been coming up with much for Phant so far, but, you know, it is another one of those crystal dungeons that they know they need to clear eventually anyway.
Yeah. Phant having, I think, skipped by the key the first time they came through here, or they came through from the other direction, has to go around and go grab that key from that room before continuing, but so far, nothing coming up in Ice Palace pretty much at all.
Has to navigate on through Hell's Hockey Rink here, has already run into one spike.
Yeah, Ice Palace routing, definitely not the easiest thing in the world. There's about 1 million ways to go through Ice Palace, and each of them has their own little intricacies that you have to remember.
And of course now, after the past 1.5-ish, we're all spoiled, you know, you just want to have that big red cane, crack Ice Palace right in half with Icebreaker, and get to skip oh so much of this, but sometimes you just don't get to.
Yeah, I say it pretty much every time it comes up. The Ice Palace bomb jump, definitely still a good trick to keep in your arsenal. Stay practiced on it, because when it comes up, you definitely need to be able to do it. Phant pulling the mushroom out of Ice Palace, the most important thing we've seen so far.
A lot of other tricks that can both be done with bombs and with something else. It always pays to know the bomb version, because you can go find bombs somewhere. You're not always going to have whatever the other thing is that makes the trick work, be it the boots for a spin speed Harapod or the Samaria for diver down.
Yeah, always better to learn the basic version of the tricks first that use the most readily available resource, and then learn the fancier, you know, even if you're likely able to do it most often. Always have that backup ability.
There's Phant hitting that stair clip again like it's no thing at all.
Likely one of my favorite little clips to do in Ice Palace for sure. It just looks so clean and saves a little bit of time when you do it.
That has now pulled all 3 items, the mushroom, then the 2nd level shield, and that looked like a piece of heart out of the big chest.
I believe it was indeed. So Ice Palace not the answer today. Gonna grab their crystal from Cold Stare, but nothing else important in Ice Palace. They will have to look elsewhere for their next piece of progression.
This is the part where both runners are going to have to start wondering, which pendant am I supposed to pick?
Phant putting that half magic and fire rod to use to take out Cold Stare quick, fast, and in a hurry. Grabbing their 5th crystal.
5 crystals in an hour 2 feels good. Missing a minimum of 2 items to access those last 2 crystal dungeons feels a whole lot worse.
Yeah, so far it has been pretty steady on being able to do crystal and dungeon, but their options are now very dry. They only have a couple of possible locations that they can go to, and all of them are, well, shall we say, out of the way. Going to be some walking here in order to get to any of them.
It might be a choice for Swamp here on Phant's side, which makes a lot of sense given that you've got a good deal of item density there. Probably is not in the mood to go back for that green pendant turn in. That's a pretty long slog.
Absolutely. Definitely good to go for the item density. Swamp having 6 items if you're willing to do left side. So definitely the quickest way to get the most bang for your buck as terms of chests here. Surprised they didn't check the Bombos tablet first, but still the right play, I think.
It may be a play from here to Bombo's tablet and then just jump down and go into desert if he's not found anything by then.
Oh, very, very possible. Yeah, that would be good routing, at least as far as single route without having to turn around and go back, get the item density out of the way first. Would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, if you're go -1, I would definitely agree. Just go ahead and make that Bombos check first, because slogging through the beginning of Swamp to get to where the density is can take a while. But even if you find Samaria or the Flute here, you're still looking for the other one, and you're probably still going to drop into Swamp to go ahead and check those at some point.
Yeah, the bigger question here is, does Phant do left side Swamp? There is a very strong argument to be made for it, given what they're missing. It is, of course, a pretty big time sink, so we'll see which one Phant chooses. I think for me, in this case, I would definitely do left side Swamp, though.
Yeah, the rejoinder to just going to the back is, I'm just looking for items. I don't necessarily want to clear this, and I can save that 10 or 15 seconds or whatever it is on the left side with Diver Down if I'm just going in and checking for items rather than actually worrying about clearing the pallets out. Maya getting a little spooky fire rod action there, is going to need 1 or 2 more swords to finish putting this cold stare buff down, but is going to tie that crystal count back up at 5 again.
Interestingly, I think both of our runners using the half magic and fire rod to great effect and needing exactly 2 sword swings to take out the last puff, the way it worked out.
And it appears that Phant is in agreement with both of us going to go ahead and just bite the bullet on that left side play.
It makes sense. You do save time by doing left side Swamp early if you're going to do it regardless. It does make sense to do it before you go to the back. Save that key, not have to do a couple of extra screen transitions. Setting up for the Diver Down, of course.
Another one of those where it pays to know that bomb setup, because otherwise you would need the Cane of Samaria, and, well, that's one of the things our runners are still missing.
Yeah, using pause buffers to make sure they get it. Gets it in first try. Maya, meanwhile, is going to make that aforementioned Bombos tablet check first.
That is an interesting choice, to be sure. I wonder if this does have something, is Swamp immediately off the menu?
I think it would be off the menu temporarily. Unfortunately, just finding 10 pointy sticks, I don't think that'll take it off the menu. It looks, however, like Maya's going to make the desert area play instead of Swamp. Interesting divergence here from our runners.
Feels like the seed has gone so far out of its way to give our runners access to the Swamp Palace here. I would be terribly surprised not to see something turn up in it, but by the same token, that book has yet to lead to anything, but it has been in inventory for a while.
Yeah, we wait on bated breath to see which of our runners is going to find that progression, or maybe both of them will. Desert having much less items to check, but being a quicker check overall. I stand by my my earlier said comment. Swamp has to have something given what they had early, but if the desert play comes up as the actual progression and Maya manages to stay out of a otherwise progressionless swamp palace, this could be a big swing in Maya's favor.
Possible, and we're going to have to keep an eye on it now with her into the Desert Palace proper and Phant into the back where the density lies in Swamp Palace.
Yep, these first 2 checks are going to be big. Ooh,
Very big, a big key, in fact, but also that Cane of Samaria.
That's an important piece of progression. Interestingly, that doesn't lead to too much. It does allow our runners to complete Turtle Rock, but otherwise does not lead them to the other crystal dungeon.
Looks like Phant has that in mind, is going to go ahead and head for the boss here, kind of hedging against that last piece of progression hiding out in the same pendant dungeon.
That does make sense. You don't want to have to come back and do this later if it is the important play. Maya, meanwhile, finding the Bombos medallion in her dungeon.
That could very well be a requirement for Maya. We do not know. Maybe that's what the book was leading us to all this time.
Maya finds the second item in desert, just a small piece of heart. So hopefully that Bombos is important, in fact, because that's the only important thing she managed to pull out of desert. Thankfully, Lanmo not having the item, so not going to have to complete it. And somebody in chat was correctly predicting the future there as Phant pulls the third sword off of Argus.
Well, that's the meme, right? Always a sword in swamp?
I have heard it more than once, I believe.
Now we have Maya up on the mountain again.
Oh, if this is a Turtle Rock play, this could be bad. We know where that Cane of Samaria is. They're going to... Oh, well, actually, they can't go into Turtle Rock without it. So this, I believe, is going to be just a hookshot cave check.
It's an interesting time for a hookshot cave check, being that, again, we have not found the logical access up here. And the number of checks that Maya has left for that to fall back into logic is really low now.
Yeah, I think at this point, the only logical checks we could have are Ether Tablet, which she will likely check. Actually, that couldn't be our mountain access, though. So the only mountain access checks we have are Pyramid Ledge and Purple Chest, I believe.
I believe you're correct. So, we're kind of down to crunch time here for finding what's actually going to work. Now, if Phant goes ahead and pulls the flute out of Turtle Rock, then, all is forgiven pretty much. But if it's the flute that's still outstanding to begin with, neither of the runners is going to feel terribly great when they find it.
Yeah, for sure. Given that knowledge, if it were me, I would prioritize doing each of those checks simply because I know that some kind of progression is there. I would take that 50-50 shot on the lamp versus flute play on that, but Phant is going to make the Turtle Rock play. It is full clearable now.
Maya has completed the coin collection there with the Quake Medallion coming out of the Hookshot Cave, but, that's it. That just assures her access to Maya once the flute appears.
Yeah, gonna have to keep going for that one. Interesting to see whether or not she decides to do Spike Cave as well. Also not in logic, given they don't have the blue cane or the cape, but likely able to do it on the current heart count she has. I don't know if she has a bottle full of goo anymore either.
I know that she spent the green when she was going to fight the moth the second time. I do not believe she's actually filled that with anything since.
Ooh, then she is going to have to be very careful doing this spike play. It is possible with her current heart count if the hookshot is used carefully, but it's going to be very close.
And we see with that menu that the bottle is in fact empty.
Oh, just barely short, trying to get that throw on the rock, but missed it for a frame or two, I think, and that's what sealed the fate. Less than half a step away from the end of the spikes. A valiant effort there.
Meanwhile, Phant is all the way up into Chain Chomps, has one small key still in hand.
With these Chain Chomps not playing nicely. Find some green goo in Turtle Rock, though.
That is decidedly not the thing that is going to finish cracking this seed open for Phant. But he's going to go ahead and head on to this vanilla big key location, and Maya is going to unflood the dam here and head into the Swamp Palace, where we know that Cane of Samaria is hiding along with the 3rd level sword if she's willing to stick it out long enough.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether she does. She may start to feel behind a little bit here, given how much overworld she's now cleared without finding any progression. We know as chat that she's not actually that far behind, but if she feels that way, she may decide against full clearing the dungeon once she finds that Cane of Samaria.
There'll also be a choice to not head into the left side of Swamp instead and try and gamble against that.
True. In game 2, she also forewent going to left side Swamp. To her credit, it was the correct choice. There was nothing there, and this time we know the same, but we'll see whether or not she makes that same choice again.
Welcome to our Raiders from Nordic Randomizer Party of 7. I hope that your game went well. I believe it was some kind of a 3-cornered bingo matchup. But you are joining in progress the last game of the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup between Maya-Neko and Phant. Our runners have 5 crystals apiece. Maya is on target to get the Cane of Samaria out of Swamp Palace here, while Phant is looking for the flute, and maybe the Bombos Medallion, which Maya has already shown us is in Pendant Desert. This is also interesting in that both of our runners went up the mountain out of logic, and we still do not know whether the item that they've skipped is the lamp, which is, not terribly concerning, or is it the flute, which would also be their access to that mire area and the 7th crystal on the board.
Yeah. Oh, Phant getting unfortunately hit by that roller at an unfortunate time twice now. Gets knocked back past the pegs twice. Very unfortunate there. Just a little time lost. Not too much to worry about since they do have blue mail, but got to be just a little careful there. This is going to make their way down to Laser Bridge, which is last hope for finding something progression-wise in Turtle Rock.
Maya setting up for this bomb diver down had a little trouble finagling at the first time, appears to be having a little trouble finagling at the second time, while Phant is in the dark on a Samaria platform.
Yeah, this room for Phant, deceptively difficult. You got to be careful. As long as you know the path, that's not too bad, but you have to be careful not to walk off the edge at the end of the platform when it makes its way down to the bottom.
And Phant seems to be roaming around in the dark a little bit here.
Yeah, it looks like they managed to accidentally get out of their location. They're in a roundabout now. Going to try and get themselves reset, it looks like.
Yeah, once you fall off course, you definitely need a little help getting where you're going, but it looks like he's finally found the... maybe not. He seems to have bypassed the little loop down there to the bottom door and is going around again.
Ooh, as I mentioned, dark rooms in this game, deceptively difficult. You never want to be in them too long, and one wrong move can set you off course pretty well in the dark rooms, and it's hard to recover from. So we'll see what Phant does. Probably, it looks like, if I was to take a guess, he's pulling up a map which is 100% allowed in most of these, just to make sure that he has his directions correct.
Is exactly what that looked like. Is 100% allowed. I keep a darkroom map up on my right-hand monitor whenever I'm racing, just so that I don't have to take that long menu buffer in case I'm going into one.
Fair. I don't keep one up, but I definitely have a shortcut to it, which is readily available as soon as I need it. If I find myself in a dark room unexpectedly, or especially the Meyer dark rooms are deceptively difficult.
And while we were commentating on Phant's darkroom exploits there, Maya has decided to forego that boss there in Swamp Palace. The Cane of Samaria is enough for her, and she is now already into the front of Turtle Rock.
Interesting choice here. Is going to gain her a little bit of time. Unfortunately, going to miss out on that third sword, which was a... wouldn't say an issue, but it was a factor in the second race where Phant managed to pull a sword off of Catfish in game 2 that Maya did not get. So last game at least, Maya did have some pretty good execution. That differences in sword not showing its face too badly, but given the choice, our runners would always prefer to have the Tempered Sword over the Master Sword.
Makes a lot of things easier, and not just bosses. That Tempered Sword does a lot better against most of the enemies on the Ganon's Tower climb.
Yeah, it's definitely the most valuable sword upgrade to find. The difference between the third and fourth sword not being all that as much important, but the Master to Tempered Sword difference worth every penny.
And we have Phant heading into Trinex here. This is one of those bosses that's going to be easier with that sword upgrade. Maya probably going to opt for some hammer strats when she gets here.
Yeah, fortunately, half magic making this fight quite a bit easier regardless of what sword you have, and both of our runners having managed to snag that, so that will help. Phant now about half a dungeon or so ahead. Maya has checked a few overworld locations that Phant has not yet, but very quickly Phant takes down Trinex to grab their 6th crystal, only needing that flute and possibly the Bombos medallion on their side to finish off in go mode.
And Trinex was holding on to our final item, and it was blue, but it was just 5 rupees. That is not going to do the trick for our runners today. The flute that they so desperately need to go after crystal number 7 is still outstanding somewhere.
Yeah, that pyramid ledge or purple chest getting ever more suspicious and suspect of having something important. It either has the lamp or the flute, and at this point, I would not be surprised to see the flute come out of the purple chest or pyramid ledge.
It's looking more and more likely as we count down those number of checks. You know, those are really our last 2 left in logic in this grand and strange trip that we've gone on. With all of the things we pulled out of logic up on the mountain with that hammer and the flippers, and yeah. You know, here we are. We're still not entirely sure at an hour and 21 minutes what's going to wind up putting this all back into logic for us.
Phant going down here. I would expect this is a pyramid fairy check, which is now in logic, having beaten the Trinex, which was holding the other 5/6 crystal. So going to be able to nicely route in pyramid ledge and pyramid fairy together.
It's one of those things that it's nice if you can hold on to that late date. It feels like most of the time when Trinex is one of those 5/6 crystal bosses that this does not pay out, but the sheer number of checks that we don't have left anymore says, well, maybe that's something this time.
Yeah, for sure. If, Pyramid Ledge having a 50-50 shot at this point of having the important item, either lamp or flute. Pyramid Fairy, meanwhile, could have something important, but interestingly, if our runner finds the one of those 2 important items in Pyramid Fairy, they will instantly know where the other one is.
And Fulugine is going to remind us again that the Pyramid Fairy is not going to have the lamp. We've gone through dark rooms to get to where we've gotten to.
Absolutely right. Volusion's logic is undeniable. Very nice catch there again.
still 2 checks here that could be the flute. Have we skipped around the lamp? Yes, we have.
Well, that means the lamp is pretty much assuredly on the purple chest. Phant has a likely go mode at this point. Bombos being the only thing that could prevent them from getting into Mire, and that being in Desert, which is a short mirror away.
Phant does not have a lot of other options left. I would expect a very quick dip into Desert if it does turn out that Bombos is the required medallion for Mire.
I would agree. Almost certainly be their first check as soon as they see that they don't have the medallion required for it.
Is that flute activation from Phant and a summoning of the duck? We should see a flute to 6 here imminently.
Heads up play here, going to go and restock on their potions before they go on to the final sections of the game.
All this time it's been kind of out of the way to go get to that potion shop. Now with the flute in hand, a little easier to make sure that you've got that extra safety in the bank.
Interestingly, I don't believe they turned in their mushroom, which was available right there, but probably committing to this most likely go mode play here.
And it seems that Maya is going to prefer the Master Sword slashes over the hammer usage.
Well, like I said, that half magic coming in handy no matter what sword you have on Trinex manages to take down both the heads without too much trouble. Phant, meanwhile, finds out that Ether is the required medallion for Mire and is in fact in go mode.
Ether everywhere is kind of an interesting proposition. The other 2 medallions, particularly that one in Desert, which we've had access to since forever ago, just red herrings.
Yeah, the book coming up as being completely useless, even though it was found fairly early.
But here we are. Maya's going to pick up crystal number 6 there off of Trinex, but Phant is well on his way, already searching around in Mire for that big key, which is the only thing left that he needs to go to the boss.
Yeah, to have a chance here, I believe Maya's going to have to go and get that Pyramid Fairy out of the way pretty much immediately. Fortunately, they don't have too much other options. She's pretty much checked everywhere else that is convenient.
With that start at the house, it looks exactly like that. Going to be a play down here to the portal just south of the house and right back up to the pyramid.
Yeah, still a couple minutes behind Phant at this point, but if they go and grab their flute and quickly go activate it, we will likely see both of our runners in Ganon's Tower at the same time.
Now, what Maya really needs along those lines is to find another sword lurking along the way. The difference between Tempered and Butter, not nearly as large as the difference between Master and Tempered once you get onto Ganon.
Yeah, finding a sword along the way here is going to be super important. Even if it's in a location that Phant is going to grab as well, it is going to be more to Maya's advantage to grab it, as you said.
To have Maya with that flute in hand here in the next 15-ish seconds, but Phant is over onto the fire-locked side of Mire, has yet to turn up that big key, and has small keys in inventory for days. And there it is in the northern fire-locked chest.
Rather annoying location to get to. Depending on how you route it, it ends up being a little bit late in the checks. If you're trying to avoid the fire-locked side, it ends up being later than you would like. But does now have their big key headed straight back to Vitreous for their 7th crystal.
Maya checking the Pyramid Fairies bottle refill, and the Pyramid Fairy is vending fairies today.
Well, probably not unhappy to see that. Blue goo and fairies being the best things that the fairies can give you.
Now here we have another one of these dark rooms, since our runners have managed to bypass the lamp, which we now believe is almost certainly on purple chest. Going to have to find that Samaria switch in the dark. Appears to be on through now.
And all the excitement of Go Mode, I too had completely forgot that the lamp was still unfound, or ungathered at least. Mire being some of the toughest dark rooms in the game, aside from maybe Agate Tower. Phant doing an excellent job getting through so far, though.
I feel like the Mire dark rooms, once you get through the first couple of them, get a little easier, but particularly finding that switch with the Samaria block can sometimes be a little dicey.
Yeah, if your timing gets off even a little bit, those fire shooters in that room can really mess with you. Maya going to check the Mire shed, hoping to find a sword here before they tackle Mire. Or maybe the flute if they've kept their if they've gotten their logic out of order.
Fortunately, just a whole bunch of Garbo.
Very sad. Meanwhile, on Phant's side, blink and you miss it. The silver arrows making quick work of Vitreous there. Phant gets their 7th crystal and is now headed on to GT. Also pulls a sword off of Vitreous. 2 bosses having 2 of our swords. That is what Maya needed to have in that location. Meanwhile, our ZSR bot has now started a little game we like to play. Phant is now headed to Ganon's Tower with 22 possible locations for that Ganon's Tower big key, the last item that we really need to find to beat the game. Throw your guesses in chat with !bet before it to say where you think that Ganon's Tower big key will be. Meandiam, where do you suppose Phant will find it this time?
I've already thrown my bet into the ring for 14, so we'll stick with that. We'll think that's probably going to be in Rando Room somewhere.
And depending on the routing choice, if Phant does a little bit of the right side first, that will definitely end up in Rando Room. My guess is always number 13, which is also usually in Rando Room.
But yeah, we will see here in another 45 seconds probably. Phant has to finish this mountain climb, sit through that crystal cutscene, and have the tower actually open up to him before he can go rummaging around in Ganon's basement, those 22 locations where that big key might be tucked away today.
Yeah, you've got another about 40 seconds to get your bets in. I already see some very cruel people in chat throwing up bet 22, which is almost certainly Tile Room, which we usually don't want to see. It takes a long time to get to that one, unless our runners make an exceptional gamble, which I've seen a few times, but Phant, with his caliber of gameplay, not going to make that choice.
It's unlikely. Most things have come up in Phant's favor here. You know, that dip into Eastern turned the Moon Pearl up, even with the untimely death trying to get through the Dark Room on the way to Armos. You know, had already pulled the item that he really needed out of there, and then just, by and large, went to crystal dungeons that he could full clear until he ran out of them, and then went to Swamp, where the progression was.
Yeah, it's better to be lucky than good. It's best to be both, of course. Phant taking that untimely death in Eastern turned out to be a good thing. Probably saved time over finishing the Armos fights, which we found out turned up nothing. Meanwhile, betting is closed, and, well, game is over, I would say.
Yeah, a bit of a demigod GT there. We're going to have to go over to the left and find a small key, very likely to be one on the torch here.
Yep, congrats to Zephyr Blaze, who managed to guess 1. The mystical, always hoped for first chest GT big key. Phant not forgetting, of course, that you do need a small key before venturing up the tower, otherwise you're in for a bad time when you get to the top. And is already making their way up the tower.
With more than enough loadout, you know, with the background of NMG experience, you're going to see a lot of things that are pretty comfortable for a runner of this caliber. You know, a mail upgrade up on what's probably customary to him, a sword upgrade up on what's probably customary, those silver arrows as well, half magic. You know, it's NMG but easier, so, you know, why not?
Yeah, anything can happen in GT or on the Ganon fight, of course, but Phant, with his practice in NMG, is certainly going to probably make short work of this tower. Meanwhile, Maya has made it through the dark rooms herself and is on to the Vitreous fight, which will be over very quickly. Going to have to be a little careful, but fortunately with silver arrows, Vitreous is usually down before it can cause too much damage.
Also have that fairy that the Pyramid Fairy was vending, so even in a worst case scenario, going to be scraped back up off the ground and allowed to continue.
Very true.
But instead, silver arrow is just doing the job.
Yep, gets their tempered sword and is going to quickly make their way over to GT. Unfortunately, with that big key location, not going to be able to save much time with GT routing on Phant. Going to have to hope that Phant has some trouble in the GT climb or Ganon fight itself if you're rooting for Maya to win here.
Looks like we're going to see some silver strats. The Landmole is not necessarily cooperating, unfortunately, on Phant's side.
Yeah, very unfortunate. That first shot a little late, and the third shot coming up a little to the left. Fortunately, Landmo goes down to 2 sword swings from that butter sword, so quickly decides to clean up the rest of the Landmos.
And opt for everything in the refill room while Maya is having some deadrock trouble trying to get into the Super Bunny portal and is just able to squeak around the one on the way to the climb. Is going to opt for the TR portal instead.
Yeah, I've heard somewhere the TR portal does save about a second and a half if you haven't opened the portal already, up to 3 seconds with optimal movement if you have already opened it. So, objectively, the right play.
Now, the rejoinder to that is, it is faster by that much until you get deadrocked.
Absolutely true. With optimal movement, it's faster, but deadrocks make everything worse. Deadrock's worst enemy in the game. Fight me if you don't believe me, but any enemy that can take the butter sword to the face and just kind of walk it off, not an enemy you really want to mess with.
Like an unwise life choice to try and fight something like that, and here is Phant is into the pre-Moldorm room, while Maya is opening up the tower there.
Yeah, Phant at the top of the tower as Maya comes in the front door. Phant going to deal with this Moldorm 2 fight, but fortunately the butter sword takes it down very quickly as well.
Kind of like the Landmos, the Moldorm, just a couple of swipes of that butter sword and away they go. It's going to be check number 2 on Maya's side, of course, doing that room in the more optimal manner for not getting a big key there, since you can then hookshot down to the Samaria block peg there at the bottom of the room.
Yep, Maya also not forgetting that they need a small key before going up the tower. Actually, it looks like they're going to grab 2.
Twice I've seen it done both ways. I tend to do it the way Maya does it. It may nominally be a little faster to just get the second key off of the mini Helma.
Yeah, hard to say. Both, not huge time sinks either way, but I think you're right. Meanwhile, Phant has a very nice, I believe, 2-2-2 on Agatu, and manages to take down the wizard, and nothing stands in his way for this series except for the Ganon fight.
Ganon fight is a place where things can go awry, but you have to think, on this loadout, at this level of play, the only thing that you would worry about is the nerves of the runner.
Yeah, it is always possible to just a single timing misstep and you end up right where Ganon is after a teleport, manage being knocked off the stage, but at this point that's pretty much all that Phant could possibly have to worry about. 14 hearts, butter sword, blue mail, half magic, silvers, almost a optimal loadout for this Ganon fight here.
The butter sword making the 1-in-1 cycle almost entirely free, very minimal input required on the runner's part there. Little dipping and dodging around fire bats as Phase 2 ends and Phase 3 begins with a handful of warps on Ganon's part. While Maya is making good time through the gauntlet here, but Ganon is about to announce that silvers are in fact his one true weakness, and Phant is going to start sticking them right into him in Phase 4.
Oh, manages to get a very nice Fire Rod Torch Glitch as well. And with that last silver arrow, get your GGs in chat. Phant needs merely to walk over this 3-tile staircase into the Triforce room, and they will take this game and the series.
There it is. Get your GGs in chat for Phant, who has finished and is going to be moving on to the semifinals with a race time GG time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 7 seconds.
Looks like Maya is going to finish their climb up the tower here.
Certainly a hard-fought race, and good to see that it's going to end in a victory over the pig, even if this is going to be the last time for Maya's tournament. Very impressive showing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with managing to be one of the last 8 runners left in the tourney.
Absolutely not. Both of our runners showing amazing skill all throughout this tournament, putting on good shows for everybody.
Maya having a bit of an argument with the worm there, but it does go down after a slash and a couple of dashes.
Pull some reserve bombs from that final Moldorm chest.
Nice to see the ultimate chest in the game paying out. That's probably about the sentiment that Maya has for it at the moment, unfortunately. And I should probably say at this point that we are joined in the booth by both our victor in this Game 3, Phant, and the challenger, the last of the people to unfortunately have gone out in this round of 8, Maya-Neko. Good game to both of you.
GG's.
GG.
That interesting, and, you know, we never did come back into Logic, did we?
Oh no, we exited Logic like what, 10 minutes into the seed? This is actually a situation that like I usually kind of look forward to, because pretty much everything ended up being locked behind Death Mountain, and you need either the flutes or the lamp to get up there. So one of those had to be somewhere early. And I just never found either of them. So I was clearing, like that's what motivated me to like go through and do like the whole graveyard ledge route all the way over to Zora, checking all that junk. Cause like, man, you know, the odds are something like this is so early. And I think by the time I went to Turtle Rock, there were like, I want to say like 2 or 3 places left where one of those had to be. And I kind of just banked on it being the lamp. I was like, yeah, you know, it's probably the lamp. Turtle Rock's gonna have the answer. And it did. But I think it's like purple chest I had left, a Gina, and I guess green pendant, but I was perfectly fine if it was on green pendant. I just lose. So I was never gonna check that. I'm assuming it was one of those. Did anybody find it? Do we know where the lamp is?
Neither of you did. By our logic, I think purple chest pretty much had to be the lamp at this point. So you did make the right choice there, choosing to go to Turtle Rock instead of hunting around for that logical access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was a gamble, but you know, Turtle Rock always seems to have the answers. Complete confirmation bias, by the way, but it always seems to have the answers.
It does indeed.
I figured I might as well go do that, and I can wrap in some other stuff, because it wasn't even guaranteed I'd be in go mode with the flute, because there's still a possibility I need a medallion, so I didn't think it was that bad to go push Turtle Rock, clear it all out.
Yeah,
Turtle Rock doesn't get too much
Maya
faster.
did find that last medallion in desert, so even if Bombos had been required for Mire, we were pretty sure you would have jumped straight over to Desert when you were looking for it and found it almost right away.
Oh yeah. Go into Mire Shed, then straight into Desert and start clearing. Yeah.
So Maya, what are your thoughts on this seed?
I felt pretty good the most time, but was probably the Maya dip, the Desert dip, which lost me the game. I was just thinking if I either go there first or Swamp Palace, and then decided for Desert Palace.
Yeah, it was very, very close. From our point of view, you were pretty much neck and neck fighting, following right along with Phant. His one big advantage was he went to Swamp Palace early. You hunted around in Light World a little bit longer, made an extra trip up the mountain for that hookshot cave check, and that's where Phant really pulled a few minutes ahead of you. Other than that, you were neck and neck and right behind him the whole time.
Yeah, that's why I decided to go to Desert Palace after all, because I thought he might go Swamp Palace instead. Yeah.
Was a situation where it would have worked out, but the Bombos medallion just kind of turned out to be one of those red herrings. The seed handed all of that early access to all of the pendant dungeons, but the only one that, the Moon Pearl in Eastern was not locked behind anything. You didn't need a lamp or anything for it, and then that Cane of Samaria and the Diver Down room and Swamp, but Desert, not actually the place.
Especially surprising given how early you were given the book. With all of the early stuff you needed to get into Swamp, we in the commentator booth were talking that Swamp had to have something. For almost an hour, we had mentioned that Swamp had to have something in it. And fortunately, we turned out to be correct, as the Cane of Samaria was in there. But other pendant dungeons turning out to be not as important. Phant, you taking that unfortunate death in Eastern, which turned out to be to your advantage because Armos had nothing.
Yeah, that was a bit embarrassing to be honest. Like I had 2 issues with dark rooms I don't think I've ever failed before. The one in Eastern, I fired in an arrow and somehow I think I was either a pixel or 2 pixels too far to the right, so my arrow went by the Igor and then it got into a position where I was like, this is not ideal. Tried to salvage it with the bee, but couldn't really. And I just had another brain fart moment in the Turtle Rock maze room. Lost a couple minutes there. Just forgetting that I need to hold left as the last step instead of down. For some reason, I switched it in my mind that I had to hold down to get onto the final tracks. I had to pull up a map. Yeah, if you wonder why I paused there, I was pulling up a map to see okay, where is this sucker? Where is it?
Yeah, that's what we suspected you were doing when you took a couple of extra loops in the dark world or in the dark room there. We were mentioning dark rooms are no joke, even for experienced runners. If they go bad, they go bad.
That's the problem. That Turtle Rock one is a joke. That's the embarrassing part. That's the easiest dark room in the game. You hold 3 inputs, and that's all you need to do. And I somehow managed to botch it.
Hey, but when it goes wrong and you're lost in that maze, it's hard to get back.
Yeah.
So, moving on, having won this series, onto the semifinals, going to be against Zero Rush, I believe. Any nerves or any plan going on to the semifinals?
It's Zero Rush. Realistically, I'm probably going to lose. Zero Rush is incredibly good. Not just at Randomizer, but at speedrunning the game in general. I was told he has I think a 124 NMG time, which is absurd. That's a top tier time to go up and compete with. So I'm definitely gonna go in with a large execution disadvantage. And early on when I saw the tournament start to par down, we get to top 32, top 16. Zero Rush is the person that I would think would win it all. Definitely has the highest chance of winning it all. I'll be honored if I could take a game off of him, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. He's just incredible.
Are you going to try and rely on your execution and Rando being Rando, or are you going to gamble a bit more than usual to try and decrease that advantage?
I haven't decided yet what to do.
Okay, should be a amazing race either way. Maya, unfortunately, out of this tournament. What's next for you?
Oh, well, I wait for the next tournaments, I would say. I'm in a mini tournament in the German community right now, but other than that, I just wait.
Well, shouldn't have to wait too long. These tournaments seem to pop up all the time. So look forward to seeing your next big tournament debut. Making it to the top 8, certainly very commendable. Shows that both of you runners were absolutely deserving to be getting this far with how well you executed all 3 of these games.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to commentate. Maya, Phant, thank you both for coming on, agreeing to be restreamed, agreeing to come in here and do the interview afterwards. You know, it takes everybody, and it starts with having a couple of runners who are willing to put themselves out there for the community's enjoyment, so thank you both so much.
Yeah, anytime.
Well, thanks for the restream as well.
I guess we're
I
going
do
to
have I do have just one random last thing to add that I found quite amusing. I was really scared of this matchup coming in. I knew Maya's like a decent player, could definitely take games over me, and did take one game over me. But the main reason is I'm in I'm part of the Link to the Past League that they operate every once in a while. And my team, which is Yakimoth and Fred, and between us, whenever we go out of tournaments, and like whenever we went out of the league or any other tournaments, it's always been anime that's defeated us. So I saw Maya-Neko, and I saw the after, like, oh no, it's gonna happen again. Anime's gonna win. And, I was so nervous about that, but we broke the curse finally. And yeah, so I just found that amusing. That it always keeps happening where we get matched up. This is the first time I've come out ahead.
All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and start winding this down. Any final thoughts from either of our runners?
Oh, GG's to Maya for putting up a fight and making it this far into the tournaments. I hope you had fun.
Yes, I did, and I expect you to win now.
That's a tall order. I'm going to do my best.
The
I need
expectations
to
are
brush up some. Yeah, brush up some execution.
Quarterfinals, how about yourself? We've had kind of an entertaining hour and 40 minutes here.
It always is, but I don't think I have anything really to add to what's already been said. Make sure you give both of our runners a follow. As we mentioned, both putting on an amazing show and plenty of additional content to be had once you go over and follow them and watch everything else they can give you outside of the tournament life.
All right, I will kind of double down on that. Both of these runners putting on a great show for you. So one more exhortation to give them a follow, give them a little love in their own channels here at some future date. My co-com Quarterfinals, our trackers, Akir and Tomultalk. And now this is MindDM going to hand this back over to our restreamer VXR441 for a few final words and programming notes on the Zelda Speedrun channel.
Okay. So our other semifinal for the Challenge Cup between W Garrison and 8-Bit is starting tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern on this channel, and Game 2 is scheduled for 3 p.m. Eastern. They need a game on Sunday. They need a Game 3 that has not been scheduled yet. We also have Wind Waker Randomizer Season 4 tournament matchup tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. And as well as the Majora's Mask Randomizer weekly at noon Eastern, Wind Waker Randomizer Fun Race at 3 p.m. Eastern, and Ocarina of Time Randomizer Standard NA weekly at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So we will see you all tomorrow. We'll see you next time.